and really enjoyed playing in the pool. She was known for being devoted to her Baptist faith and carried a Bible around with her wherever she went. She enjoyed singing, drawing, art, and music. She also thoroughly enjoyed stargazing. In fact, she enjoyed it so much that she wanted to be an astronomer one day. On the Sunday after the shooting, Natalie was supposed to be baptized at her local church, which was something that she had always dreamed of. Such a simple, yet pure dream that would never be realized. Though she never got her wish, we know Natalie is one of heaven's angels. There were almost 500 people in attendance at Natalie's funeral. A young lady that touched so many lives, who will never be forgotten. Paige Ann Herring was born on March 11, 1986. She celebrated her 12th birthday only 13 days before the shooting. Paige was very athletic and played 3 different sports while she was in school, including softball, basketball, and volleyball. Paige had big aspirations of being an elementary music teacher. She was known to all her friends as giving the best advice, and they all went to her whenever they hit a bump in the road of their young lives. Even though Paige was very athletic, she also had a soft and romantic side. She was buried in a white casket with pink roses, and her volleyball jersey draped over the coffin. Her volleyball teammates were the pallbearers at the funeral. Stephanie Johnson was 12 years old and in 7th grade when she was murdered. Stephanie was born on May 5th, 1985, and was the first person killed on the day of the massacre. She had beautiful, dark hair and was a friendly, quiet little girl. Stephanie was brilliant, and her parents said that she was always trying to, quote, figure things out. She liked going shopping for shoes, but then enjoyed coming home and going fishing. Stephanie loved volunteering at her local animal shelter. She was buried in a bronze-colored casket with pink lining, and her favorite pink stuffed rabbit tucked inside the coffin. 11-year-old Brittany Varner was born on September 18, 1986, in Rogers, Arkansas. At 3 years old, her mom, and sister moved to Jonesboro. Brittany had a very bubbly personality and loved playing pranks on friends and was known for making others laugh and lifting the spirits of her friends and family. Brittany also had a passion for the elderly and enjoyed working with her mom, who worked at a nursing home. She was Leonardo DiCaprio's biggest fan and was a great student as well as a softball player.
Miss Wilson, we worked on your little girl when they brought her in, and he said we weren't able to save her, and it was just so. I'll never forget that feeling. I thought that this can't be. This cannot be. You cannot be talking about my child. But it's just not natural to pick out a dress for your daughter's funeral. And, I kept thinking about that. I kept thinking I could pick out a wedding dress and a prom dress, but I can't pick out that.
We have an active shooter. We have an active shooter inside the warehouse. We have an active shooter. We have an active shooter inside the warehouse.
Jonesboro is a relatively small town, about 130 miles northeast of Little Rock, and was incorporated on February 19, 1859. In 1998, the city had a population of about 50,000 people. Jonesboro has a very low crime rate, and its residents were shocked to the core to learn about the shooting. The town is home to the Arkansas State University, as well as 6 public school districts. The total square area of Jonesboro is about 80 miles. Jonesboro is most well known for its manufacturing, agriculture, medicine, and education. Craighead Forest Park is located in Jonesboro and is a 60-acre large park. The park is city-owned, and residents can enjoy a fishing lake, camping, hiking and biking, recreation fields, and picnic sites at the park. One of the most surprising aspects about this crime is that Ben and Chad weren't close friends, not by a long shot. They actually only knew each other from the bus rides to and from school each day. The boys sat next to each other on the bus and were known as bullies, but that appears to be their only interactions. Before the shooting, both boys threatened other students and peers, telling them that something terrible was going to happen. In fact, just months before the shooting, Ben told a classmate that he was planning on shooting up the school. The classmate immediately let her parents know, and they in turn contacted the local authorities. When the police questioned Ben, he told them that he had mentioned something about shooting up the school, yes, but then he claimed he had a nightmare about carrying out the shooting, and in the dream he, Ben, ended up dying. He told police about this nightmare and that it scared him so much he decided not to carry out the plan. Because this first threat was brushed off, when other students heard the boys threatening about something bad happening at the school, they didn't take it seriously. It should also be noted that this was pre-Columbine, and school shootings, while extremely rare, weren't often saturated in the media as they are present day.
He was like, whoever didn't like him or whoever broke up with him, whoever he thought was a snob, he was going to shoot him, like he was going to bring him down the next day and shoot him.
He was always talking about he was going to do it, and I never thought he would.
He always talked about he was going to do what?
He was going to come and shoot people and bring a knife to school and stuff, and I never thought he'd do it.
Born on May 25th, 1986, Ben was 11 years old and in 6th grade. Ben was born and raised in Jonesboro and was never a problem in school. His teachers always commented that he had good manners and seemed like a happy student. Ben was very close to his family, and he was a well-behaved child his entire life. He came from a very stable and loving family. Ben was raised around a variety of firearms. He competed in and won marksmanship competitions growing up. He was gifted his first rifle at only 6 years old for his birthday. His family was full of avid hunters, concentrating mostly on rabbit and duck hunting. Ben had an older brother and sister from his mother's previous marriage, though Ben was the only child produced from his mother and father's marriage. In his mom and dad's eyes, Ben could do no wrong. It appeared that he had two very different sides to him. While at home, he was a very respectful and sweet child, but he used vulgar language towards the other students and was mean-spirited at school. Other students said that he was hostile and aggressive. Ben would also ride his bike around his neighborhood with a knife strapped to his leg and enjoyed playing many violent video games. On the other hand, he truly loved playing trumpet in the school band. Not only did Ben enjoy hunting, playing video games, shooting his BB gun at animals and cars passing by, but he was always drawing pictures of guns. It seems that he was obsessed with guns, even doing a skit about them in English class. In the moments that Ben got in trouble in class, his parents would blame the teachers, because in their eyes, their precious son was never wrong, and was the perfect child.
Apparently neighbors have commented on his switches in moods, that he could go from one mood to another, where they could barely recognize him, that he was a sweet, lovely boy at times, and at other times was fierce and aggressive.
Chad had a very different upbringing than Ben. Chad was born in Grand Meadow, Minnesota, on August 11, 1984. When Chad was 7 years old, his mother and father divorced. After the divorce, Chad, his brother, and his mother moved from Minnesota to Jonesboro, Arkansas. His mom started working as a guard at the local prison and married an inmate after he was released. Chad had a good relationship with his mom, stepdad, and brother. He didn't get along with his biological father after the divorce and rarely saw him, if ever. Chad was quiet and respectful to his family, but he was nothing less than a bully at school and around others. When Chad was only 12, he was charged with sexually assaulting a toddler while he was in Minnesota visiting family. Unfortunately, we don't know the case's specifics because his record was expunged due to his young age. Chad was always trying to act tough and convince people that he was going to be in a gang, even going as far as wearing the same colors as the notorious gang, the Bloods. He told other kids that he had a lot of killing to do, and would try to impress other kids with his knowledge of firearms. Chad, who was a former member of the church youth choir, would get into constant verbal and physical fights with others. It seemed that after his parents' divorce, his behavior radically changed. It was apparent that the divorce deeply affected him. To the few friends that Chad did have, he was described as being a goofy kid. While in school, he played football, baseball, and basketball. The staff at Westside Middle School did what they could to make school welcoming when the students and teachers came back. High-powered pressure washers were brought in to clean up the blood that stained the sidewalks. Each of the bullet holes in the walls were patched, and the small area of trees where the boys concealed themselves during the shooting was bulldozed. Fences were erected in its place. All of the fire alarms were deactivated for fear that a false alarm could trigger students and teachers, causing a terrible panic. A crisis counselor was assigned to every classroom, so if a student or teacher needed someone to talk to, someone was always readily available. There were also police officers assigned to patrol the school 24 hours a day. Some parents packed up their families and moved out of town altogether. The memories and nightmares were just too traumatic to bear day after day. Some teachers never came back to school after that day. Some finished out the school year, although never returned for the next academic year. The boys reacted in ways somewhat different than you may expect. Ben, who was the quiet and well-mannered boy, never expressed remorse to anyone. He never shed a tear during the court proceedings or interrogations. The only time he managed to eke out any emotion was right after he was arrested, when he was laid in his cell, weeping and calling for his mom. Chad, on the other hand, was very emotional and remorseful during the pendency of the case. He often would cry and express how sorry he was for what he had done. He had even read a tear-filled apology to the victims in court. The Jonesboro massacre brought a lot of legal issues to light. Legal issues that led to the creation of various laws that are still in place in Arkansas today. Chad and Ben could not be charged as adults because they weren't at least 14 years old, which was the requisite age to be charged as an adult in the state of Arkansas then. Since they were only 11 and 13 years old, each boy could only be charged as a juvenile, or minor. Both of the boys were charged with 5 counts of capital murder and 10 counts of first-degree battery. Judge Ralph Wilson presided over the case, and Deputy Prosecutor Mike Walden prosecuted. On August 11th, 1998, Chad pled guilty to all charges. However, Ben had a trial the same day. After testimony and evidence were presented, he was found guilty on all charges after just 3 hours of deliberation. Both of the boys were sent to the Department of Youth Services facility in Alexander, Arkansas. In 1998, there wasn't a provision that allowed juveniles to serve life in prison. This meant that both boys were set to be released on their 21st birthday. Chad was scheduled for release in 2005, and Ben in 2007. In 1999, the Arkansas General Assembly passed Act 1192 called, quote, Extended Juvenile Jurisdiction Act. This act allowed prosecutors to charge minors under the age of 14 as adults for capital murder and first-degree murder. The act also made it possible for the seriousness of the offense to be considered when deciding the sentencing guidelines. The same year, Act 1272 was also passed. This act required the Department of Youth Services to have a separate facility for people between the ages of 18 and 21, making it mandatory for older juveniles to be held in a different facility away from the younger minors. Ben and Chad didn't succeed once outside the juvenile detention center on their 21st birthdays. Chad almost immediately entered into the adult criminal justice system. He was arrested in 2007 for multiple offenses, and was subsequently charged with a variety of crimes including drugs, theft, and weapons possession. Chad served several years in an adult prison. Upon release from prison in 2015, Chad was placed in a drug rehab program. It is unknown if he was successful in completing his rehab. Chad was known to complain all the time that everyone knew who he was, which made it impossible for him to get a job. While Chad was in and out of jail and prison, Ben lived a much quieter life. In the summer of 2007, he moved to Missouri and changed his name, though in the fall of 2007 he moved back to Arkansas to live with his mother and father. After moving in with his mom and dad, he enrolled at an Arkansas community college. The only reason that the police knew where Ben was is because he applied for a concealed pistol license. His application was denied, and through fingerprints, they were able to confirm that it was indeed Ben. In May of 2008, Ben was in a horrific motorcycle accident that required him to have an operation. He underwent shoulder surgery shortly after the accident and had a plate put into his shoulder. On July 27, 2019, Ben was driving with his wife in the passenger seat and his young son in the back seat when another vehicle crossed the center line and hit Ben and his family head-on. Ben's wife and son were injured, but survived. Ben, however, perished in the crash. The driver of the other car died too. As far as we know, Chad is still out there.